The studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson. Usually, you see me accompanied by my broadcast partner, Hector Boza. We're still waiting for Hector right now, so hopefully he'll be able to call in when he can. Well, let me just let everyone know that before we start, if you want to check out some past shows of ours that you might have missed, check us out on our YouTube page. And you can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, the countdown is on. Just 5 episodes of In the Bleachers remaining until that landmark 700th episode, which will take place next month. It's been a really interesting, real fun, real trying at times time doing the show. We've had a lot of guests on the show. We've had our share of controversies. We've had a lot of fun, most of all, doing this show. So hopefully you can join us for another 700 episodes, God willing. Well, this weekend certainly was a dud. Not only did the Yankees and the Mets lose, but so did the Nets. At least the Mets took 2 out of 3 from the Padres, but yesterday was a complete and unmitigated disaster for both baseball teams. The Mets had this lead against the Padres, but then they decided to go to the bullpen, and I think they might have used Jody Familia for one too many batters. As it turns out, they brought in Jacob Barnes to try and get that last out of the 7th inning. And unfortunately, he wound up getting served for a grand slam home run and then another home run in that inning. This just goes to show you that the Mets really do need to look at that bullpen if they want to try and win a championship this year. Not only that, but maybe they should look at their starting rotation as well, because after Jacob deGrom, who, by the way, went through a little bit of a health scare of his own not too long ago, after deGrom, they've got Lucchesi, who pitched so-so yesterday in my eyes. And then there was Taijuan Walker, who, to his credit, has pitched very well this season. In fact, I think the Mets have an 8-2 record or a 9-2 record in Taijuan Walker starts. And then there's also Marcus Stroman, who himself has pitched well at times. But after those 3 guys, what do you have? I mean, Joey Lucchesi has, for the most part, has been very, very poor this season. And there's no number 5 starter to speak of. And all hope that the Mets had of bringing back Noah Syndergaard is suddenly on hold because Syndergaard had another health scare most recently. So now the Mets have to hope that their big horses in the batting order, like Jeff McNeil and Michael Conforto, can make their way back so they can add some punch to that batting order. And right now, the Mets are about to start a series with the Chicago Cubs, who took care of their own business by beating the Cardinals last night. Let's see what the Mets are made of this time as they go up against a team that's fighting for first place in the Central Division. Now, as far as the Yankees are concerned, I kept telling people that this team was not without their problems, but they didn't want to believe me. And look what happened this weekend. Not only did Aroldis Chapman go through another meltdown. Yesterday, the Yankees wound up getting shut out 7-0. And this was where Aaron Boone started to call everybody out, so to speak. Basically saying that it was time for everybody to look in the mirror. I think he himself has to look in the mirror as well, because he's not without his mistakes as well. And while he's at it, maybe Brian Cashman should try and look in the mirror too. Because he put together this pitching staff, and he also put together this batting order. And right now, the Yankees have become a one-game over 500 team. And as Bill Parcells said before, you are what your record says you are. And right now, the Yankees are one game over 500. And it's not going to get any better, because they have Toronto coming up in Buffalo. And then the Yankees return home for a series with Oakland over the weekend. And let me tell you, the Yankees are in serious, serious trouble right now. Not only have they lost, 11 of 13 or 12 of 14 or 12 of 15, whatever the losing streak is, they seem to be continuing to lose people to injury. I mean, just recently, Luis Severino unfortunately had a mishap with his ankle. So now it looks like he's going to be out a little bit longer. And Luke Voit, he's just about to get started with a rehab assignment in the minor leagues. So it's just a matter of time before those guys make their way back. Speaking of guys making their way back, I mentioned the Mets before. Dellin Betances, he's going to start a rehab assignment of his own. Maybe he can add a little something to that bullpen. Elsewhere in baseball, I saw that Cubs versus Cardinals game last night, and they had a packed house at Wrigley Field. That's an interesting rivalry, the Cubs versus the Cardinals, because they go back over 120 to 130 years. And it just goes to show you that these two rivals really have had it going on for the last 130 some odd years. And yesterday, they got a really good pitching performance, the Cubs did. And now they come into Citi Field to try and take on the Mets. Hopefully, Jacob deGrom will be able to make a start for the Mets in this series. And if not, he might be saved for the series in Washington. This series, along with the Padres series that they had, starts a stretch of 33 games in 31 days. And they've got some doubleheaders mixed in as well. So this is the time for the Mets, if they really want to be serious about contending for a division title. This is where they really need to bow down and or bear down and start winning some games. Now, as far as what's going on elsewhere in baseball, Boston continues to lead the Eastern Division, while the Western Division continues to be occupied by the Oakland A's. Let me see if I could check out the standings in the majors so I could give you an accurate description of what's going on. Also, the Mets made a move today. They officially designated Jacob Barnes for assignment, and they recalled Sean Reed-Foley from Syracuse. Sean Reed-Foley, to his credit, has pitched pretty well this season. Here we are. And let me correct myself. It's Tampa that actually leads the Eastern Division in the American League. They're up by 3 games over Boston. Everybody else is a country mile behind. The Chicago White Sox lead the Central Division, and Oakland leads the Western Division by a slim margin, 2 games over Houston. As far as the National League is concerned, at least the Mets are putting up their end of the bargain among the 2 baseball teams and leading the Eastern Division, albeit by a small margin. 3 games over Philly, 5 games over Atlanta, 7 games over Miami, 7.5 over Washington. And the Central Division, the Chicago Cubs and Milwaukee are tied for the Central Division lead with identical 38-27 records. And then out west, probably the biggest surprise of the season, the San Francisco Giants, one of the oldest teams in the majors, lead the West by just a game over the Dodgers and by 3 games over the suddenly slumping San Diego Padres. And the Giants rather have been doing this with pitching, and they've also gotten a lot of punch from Buster Posey and the rest of the batting order. Well, so that takes care of the stuff in baseball. As far as what's going on in basketball, the playoffs, of course, are now in the conference semifinals. And now we're seeing the Nets at their most vulnerable. No James Harden, and now no Kyrie Irving. They've both been declared out for Game 5 against the Bucks. And the Nets really blew their chance to grab the series by the throat when they wound up losing in Game 3, first off. They missed some shots down the stretch, and then Milwaukee really got some key rebounds, offensive rebounds, in the down the stretch in order to get the victory. And then came yesterday when the Bucks got a tremendous game from Giannis Antetokounmpo. So now, the all-important Game 5 taking place tomorrow. And, there were some people that actually picked the Nets to win the NBA title. It's hard to win a championship when you don't have your horses ready. So this is all coming down on Kevin Durant's shoulders. So now, at least they're going to get Jeff Green back. Jeff Green, he was out with an injury as well. And fortunately, he was able to come back for Game 4. There was some talk about whether one of the forgotten men, Spencer Dinwiddie, was going to be able to come back, but his knee just won't allow it. So it looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Well, he's got all summer to try and recover from his injury, and with Kyrie Irving set in stone as the point guard, maybe the Nets can cut a deal and try and include Dinwiddie in a package for another superstar. I don't know. Maybe they could get themselves a big man who could not only get some rebounds but also play some defense. Because right now, the Nets have shown to be very vulnerable defensively. As far as the other series are concerned, good to see that the Phoenix Suns were able to take care of their business last night. They wound up beating the Denver Nuggets, and they wound up sweeping the series 4 straight. And Chris Paul, a guy who's had his own issues with injuries, showed how great a point guard he is when he came away with a 37-point game. I mean, I really, I really took for granted exactly how good this guy is. I mean, I always knew he was good, but I didn't realize that he was great. I mean, he was setting guys up for layups and dunks and taking guys off the dribble and making good defensive plays. Tell you what, he's going to turn down his $44 million option for next season. Hint, hint, maybe, just maybe, a certain basketball team not named the Brooklyn Nets should make some serious discussions about bringing this guy in. Otherwise, at this rate and at his age, which is 36, he might want to sign a long-term deal with the Suns. I mean, he's moved around a lot in the last 5 years. He's gone from being a Clipper to being a Rocket to being an Oklahoma City Thunder and now going to the Phoenix Suns. It's obvious that the constant moving around is not something that he's particularly thrilled about. So let's see exactly what Chris Paul does when the season ends. As far as the other two series, both of those resume tonight. There's Sixers Hawks and Jazz Clippers. That Sixers series has really turned in this into this. Well, let me start over again. That Sixers Hawks series has really turned in the Sixers' favor. Joel Embiid, not that he wasn't great before, but he seemed to be invisible in several stretches of past games. But now, in Game 3, he had a wonderful game. And it's gotten to the point where he and Ben Simmons have really grabbed this series by the throat. And it could be that the Hawks' lack of a second superstar might be catching up to them. I mean, they've got a good team, but you have to try and support Trae Young somehow. Now, Game 4 is taking place tonight. If the Hawks want to win this game, they're going to have to try and neutralize Joel Embiid somehow. And while they're at it, see if they can take away the passing lanes that Ben Simmons usually creates. Did you see the pass that he threw in Game 3 the other night in Atlanta? I mean, it was basically the equivalent of a baseball pass to the other side of the lane, and it just blew the minds of a lot of people that he was able to make that play. Now, as far as the final series goes, that's Jazz and Clippers. The Clippers were able to score a crucial victory in Game 3 as Paul George had a really solid game, and also Kawhi Leonard had a phenomenal game as well. Now, if the Jazz want to be able to wrap this series up tonight, they're going to have to slow down that Clippers transition game, because the Clippers seem to be thriving in transition. Not only that, but not only that, but there seems to be a bit of an issue regarding the Jazz point guard situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mike Conley's a really good player, but I think he's going to have to try and involve himself in the offense somehow if he wants to lead the Jazz to the next level. It's a good thing that the Suns have that extra time to heal from their injuries, whatever injuries that they have, because now they can see the Jazz and the Clippers potentially kill each other. Now, as far as what's going on elsewhere in basketball, we know that Nikola Jokic won the NBA's Most Valuable Player award, and Rudy Gobert was the Defensive Player of the Year. So congratulations to those two for having just phenomenal seasons. Well, the weekend wasn't a complete dud because yesterday the Islanders wound up beginning their series with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Islanders came away with a 2-1 victory. It seems like the Islanders have come up with so many different ways to try and win games because they have different guys winning games for them one at a time. And believe it or not, the ex-Devil, Kyle Palmieri, has been leading the way with 7 goals, while the setup man, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, has 10 assists and 13 points to lead the way. Now, if they want to try and take game 2, do the exact same thing that they did in game 1. Take away the offense of Nikita Kucherov. Take away the offense of Braden Point, who leads the team in scoring with 9 goals. Kucherov, of course, leads with 14 assists and 19 points. Get contributions from Scott Mayfield and Devin Taves. Most importantly, cut down on the power play goals, because there were times when the Islanders gave up some really, really cheap power play goals. So this leads to not committing any stupid penalties, for one. And for another, they really have to be a little bit more disciplined than they were during the Pittsburgh and the Boston series. Now, as far as other stuff going on in sports, just last night I was watching some soccer. Yep, this guy was watching some soccer, and it was the Copa America between Brazil and Venezuela. Boy, I tell you, Brazil has got some talented players, boy. One of them being Neymar. And it was a pretty easy win that the Brazilians wound up getting 3-0 over the Venezuelans. Now, on the women's side, the Americans had a friendly match with Jamaica. And the game went well for the Americans, as always. Now, as far as what else is going on, I want to let everyone know again that we are just 5 episodes away from that landmark 700th episode, which is going to be taking place next month. And we certainly hope that you could join us for that 700th episode, because we're going to be having a really nice time. Now, as far as other stuff going on in the world of sports, let me just check out what's going on here. Oh, back to basketball. The NBA revealed their all-defensive team. And making the first team, Rudy Gobert, Ben Simmons, Draymond Green, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jrue Holiday, which is a pretty solid 5 that you can start a team with. By the way, making the second team, let me just enter into my Twitter for a moment. Making the second team, Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler of the Heat, Joel Embiid and Matisse Thybulle of the 76ers rather, and Kawhi Leonard of the Clippers. Another pretty good 5 to start a team with. Now, just recently, my friend Hector sent me a couple of articles in regards to what's going to be happening in the upcoming off season. There have been some pretty hot rumors going around in regards to the Knicks showing interest in Miles Turner and also Kendrick Nunn of the Heat. Now, Miles Turner is one thing. Miles Turner is a good defensive player and a pretty solid low post scorer. As far as Kendrick Nunn is concerned, Kendrick Nunn was a 38.1% shooter from three-point range, which is not terrible, but not great either. And his numbers with the Heat were pretty decent. 14.6 points, 3.2 rebounds, 2.6 assists in 56 games last season. If I'm the Knicks, I focus on Miles Turner, first of all, because the Nets need somebody who could not only clog up the lane, but also either block some shots or alter some shots as well. And there was a recent article in the Bleacher Report that talked about every favorite, every team's potential trade target. Interestingly, the Bleacher Report suggested that the Nets look at Chris Boucher of the Raptors. Interesting. Now, Boucher is somebody who's not only talented, but I think has let his talent go to waste. To be honest with you, he barely gets time with the Raptors in the first place. Now, he would definitely be someone that the Nets would look at or should look at because he's a guy who not only can score, but he also has a 7'4" wingspan, which could allow him to protect the rim. And he can even shoot pretty well, 38.3% from 3-point range. Now, as far as who the Knicks should look at, here's a name for you: Zach LaVine from the Bulls. Uh, the article says, and I quote, LaVine is likely considered off limits by the Bulls for now, but his impending free agency and an ever possible trade request could change things at any time. If Chicago feels like LaVine will walk in free agency, the Knicks should pounce. LaVine has the type of electric game perfectly suited for Madison Square Garden, and LaVine and RJ Barrett on the wing could become one of the best young duos in the league. At age 26, he finished 7th in the NBA in scoring this season, 27.4 points per game, doing so on a career-best 63.4% true shooting percentage. The only other guard in NBA history to score at this high of volume and on this efficiency, Stephen Curry. Not that he should be compared to Stephen Curry, but I'll tell you what. Anybody who could score in bunches like he does, if he is available, I would definitely make a play for him. So, let's see what else is going on here. There's also some rumors going around that that the Knicks are showing interest in Dennis Schroeder of the Lakers. Unfortunately, Schroeder didn't do particularly well in his playoff debut with the Lakers. And complicating matters is that he actually rejected a pretty fair contract offer from the Lakers. So now that he's going to be now that he's going to be a free agent, he might look at a cheaper deal because of his lackluster performance. Now, here's somebody that the Knicks might be able to show some interest in. He's athletic. He defends. He's a really good scorer. Did I mention that he defends? This guy can really make a team look good with his play. So, since the Knicks are in their off season right now, exactly what should they do? Tell you what, if I'm not mistaken, Julius Randle has an option year on his contract. If I'm him, I turn down that deal and look for a pretty good deal someplace, whether it's with the Knicks or someplace else. The Knicks really struck gold when they signed Julius Randle last year or the year before. This season, he grew by leaps and bounds in helping his team this season. So much so that he became the most improved player of the year. So, a decision has to be made as far as what the Knicks should do with Julius Randle. Excuse me, everyone. I'm looking at the article as we speak. It's from a website called The Game House. As far as what the Knicks should do, the Game House says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It says, and I quote, the biggest priority for the Knicks this season is to keep the youthful core of Barrett, Toppin, Robinson, and Quickly together for the foreseeable future. With an average age of just 22, this posse of young guns will hit their prime in 5 to 6 years, leaving them plenty of time to develop around each other. Randle could be more difficult to fit into this timeline, but if his all-NBA caliber season this year was anything to go off of, it definitely wouldn't hurt to keep him around. And before lamenting that it didn't translate to playoff success, think of it this way. How often is it that consistent small fry like the Knicks shoot up to serious playoff competition in one season? The 2004-2005 Suns come to mind. They improved from 29 to 62 wins, powered by Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni, but that was a decade and a half ago. Pluto was still a planet, and no one knew what an iPhone was. What the Knicks managed this season was monumentally impressive, and it'd be a terrible mistake to break it all up again. And here it talks about some of the players that should be kept. Derrick Rose, Nerlens Noel, Mitchell Robinson. Well, picking up a point guard would not be such a bad idea. Let's put it that way. I mentioned Chris Paul, and I mentioned Dennis Schroeder. Lonzo Ball, anybody? let's put it this way. They would not go wrong by having either of those three guys be their main ball handler next season. And I'll tell you what, if by some miracle they do get Chris Paul, he would be the perfect tutor for Emmanuel Quickly. But seeing how Paul is having a great season in Phoenix, my guess is that he is going to turn down his free agent option and sign a new deal with the Suns, because it would be foolish of him to leave such a great situation where he's playing with a good young center in DeAndre Ayton and a terrific shooting guard in Devin Booker. And the Suns just had one of their best regular seasons in recent history. So I think it's natural that Chris Paul would want to extend his time in the desert. So as far as the Nets are concerned, first and foremost, they need to get healthy if they want to try and contend for a championship. And at this rate, the Bucks are going to come from 2-0 down and win this series, because with no James Harden and no Kyrie Irving, I don't think the Nets stand a chance, even with Kevin Durant in the starting lineup, of beating the Bucks right now. Which means that the only team that could have a serious go at a championship could be the Islanders. And who saw the Islanders probably making a stand at a championship? Not a lot of people. But you consider some of the players that they have, like Matthew Barzal and Josh Bailey, the two ex-Devils, Kyle Palmieri and Andy Green. Anthony Beauvillier, J.G. Pajot. Excellent goaltending from Semyon Varlamov. The Islanders are set up very nicely to try and win a championship this season. Going back to baseball, I just recently, about 2 weeks ago, I attended my first Yankee game of the season. It was against Tampa Bay. Unfortunately, the Yankees lost 3-1. And I took my dad with me. And it was a real pleasure taking my dad with me to another game. I'm hoping that I could take him to Citi Field to see a Met game one of these days. So hopefully that time will come. Now, going back to hockey a little bit, it looks like one of the Ranger prospects Colin Blackwell is the kid's name. The United States, Colin Blackwell of the Rangers was able to compete for Team USA at the World Hockey Championships, and fortunately, they were able to come away with a bronze medal. They came away with a bronze medal because they went up against Canada in the semifinals, and Canada won that game. And of course, Canada would win the World Championship in hockey. One other note regarding the Rangers, Adam Fox has been named a finalist for the Norris Trophy. Now, for those who may not know, the Norris Trophy goes to the defensive player who demonstrates throughout the season the greatest all-around ability in the position. So that takes care of that. And I also saw that the Rangers signed a Swedish defenseman, Nils Lundqvist, to an entry-level contract. And he wound up playing 52 games in the Swedish Hockey League, and he got 14 goals and 18 assists for 32 points, while getting 30 penalty minutes. Not bad. We haven't talked about the New Jersey Devils for a time. Excuse me, guys. I'm looking at my NHL app here and seeing exactly what's going on with the Devils. And apparently, not much is going on. They did have a scouting report on one of the top players in Russia. Fedor Svechkov is the kid's name. He's only 18 years old. He's 6 feet tall, 179 pounds. It says he can drive a line due to his great hands, playmaking, and above average speed. He gains the zone with control often, makes a lot of plays, and can maneuver in tight areas at a high level. Well, that takes care of that. By the way, folks, if you have a story that you'd like to share with us, don't forget to pass it along, and we'd like to know about it. So contact us through Facebook and Twitter, and we would love to hear from you. Well, about 9.5 minutes to go. I would be remiss if I did not mention that we have 5 episodes to go before we get to our 700th episode of all time. Now, think about it, 700 episodes in 15 years. That's about 45 to 50 episodes a year. It takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication to put together a TV show. So, if you're interested in wanting to put together a TV show, then you can come on down to CTV and check it all out. You can go through an orientation, you can go through the classes, and then after that, you can volunteer on a few shows, and then they'll get you situated for your own show. So, the choice is yours. Oh. It's summertime, which means that camps and football are taking place. One bit of news involving the Jets is that they gave Jamison Crowder a brand new restructured contract. So Crowder's going to be all set. Let me check my NFL app for 1 second. It also says that Danielle Hunter agrees to a restructured deal with the Vikings. And unfortunately, the Patriots are going through a bit of a contract squabble with Stephon Gilmore. And because of that, one guy who's been trying to convince Gilmore to make his way to Los Angeles and play for the Rams is Jalen Ramsey. So, not sure where this falls along the lines of tampering or something like that, but can you imagine Jalen Ramsey and Stephon Gilmore in the same secondary? You do not want to be a quarterback and have to throw in the direction of whatever receiver has to go up against one of those guys. The biggest story in NFL minicamp right now is the Green Bay Packers. Mostly because of the one guy who is absent from Packers minicamp right now, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has dropped hints that he might have played his last game as a member of the Packers. So he has decided not to show up for camp. So it's gotten to the point where the Packers really have to bear down and make a decision. Do they try and seduce Rodgers with a brand new contract? Or do they want to move on and not have to be dealing with this headache anymore? So, with 5 minutes left, I failed to mention, I just want to say a special word of thanks to Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass. He's giving me thumbs up right now. It's gotten to the point where Rodgers may want to explore winning a championship someplace else because he's come so close on so many occasions. He's already won a title, folks. It's not like he's empty. It's not like he's got bare fingers without any rings. He has a championship ring, but he wants to be able to win at least one more before he officially calls it a career. 4 minutes left. What else is going on in the NFL right now? I see Nick Mullins signs with the Eagles. And of course, because Stephon Gilmore is holding out, Bill Belichick is not saying a word about that little hassle right there. Well, about 2.5 minutes left. I want to say once again, if you have a story that you'd like to share with us, then we'd like to know about it. So contact us on Facebook or Twitter, and you can also send a link or send a video or anything to our YouTube page as well, and we'd be happy to tell that story about it. Oops, sorry about that. Anyway, we're coming up on a minute and a half left. 5 episodes remaining until the 700th, landmark 700th episode of In the Bleachers. So we hope that you can join us. And we certainly hope that that you can join us for that and for, God willing, another 700 episodes as well. Well, I guess that's going to do it for us, folks. So once again, thanks to Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass, and thanks to you guys for watching at home. We apologize if we did not bring Hector Bosa onto the show. I think his health might have gotten the best of him. So hopefully he'll be well enough to try and join us next Monday night. So for everyone here, I'm Jamie. We hope to see you next Monday night. Good night, everyone.